Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Ducktales for the Game Boy, brought to us by Capcom. The Disney Capcom games of the late 80s and 90s are some of my favorite platformer and action games ever created. With the big success of the home console versions, it's not surprisingly that Capcom would want to capitalize and make them available on portable systems, and that's exactly what they did with Ducktales and a few of the other Disney Capcom games. The thing is, they didn't just completely port the game over. While the game is mostly the same, there are little changes, especially to the overall level design. So here we go with Ducktales for the Nintendo Game Boy. Just like with the NES version, you can select from easy, normal, or difficult, and we'll be playing on the difficult setting. Once you start the game, you'll notice that the starting menu isn't as elaborate or colorful, of course, as the NES counterpart, but overall the game's graphical style isn't too bad, especially for being on a handheld console. You can then pick from one of 5 different levels, the same from the NES. However, you'll soon notice in some of the levels the designs are a little bit different, especially when you get some of the later stages like the moon. While the core gameplay is pretty much the same, of playing as Scrooge McDuck, trying to collect all the treasures from around the different levels of the world, and taking out enemies with your pogo stick. Unlike the NES version of the original DuckTales game, this game takes a page out of DuckTales 2 for the NES, where you actually just have to press the B button in order to use the pogo, instead of actually having to hold down and press the button in order to pogo. This definitely helps out and makes the game a little bit easier to overall control. There's tons of different hidden treasures throughout the games, and multiple different hidden treasure chests and other items you can find throughout, including extra pieces of health, which you'll be getting one of them in the Himalaya Level. Besides just being able to use the cane as a pogo stick, you can actually also hit items. Hitting different rocks as well as treasure chests will either open them up or cause them to fly, allowing you to actually hit enemies with them, allowing you to take them out without having to get too close. Like the NES version, you only have a couple of hits before you end up losing a life, and once you've lost all your lives, it's game over and you have to start the game over again from the beginning. However, thankfully, the difficulty has never been too challenging when it comes to the original DuckTales. And the overall music in the game, while of course not as stellar as its 8-bit counterparts, they at least did an okay job recreating these sounds on the actual Game Boy. Here is one of the toughest jumps in the entire game, having to jump to Launchpad's helicopter in order to hang onto the bottom of it so you can get over the large gap. The Game Boy has a hard time controlling the amount of sprites on screen at once, so it definitely chugs a little bit here, so be very careful while making that jump. When you make it over to the far left before climbing up the vine, you'll run into Launchpad for the first time. Talking to Launchpad will actually allow you to exit a level, but keep all the money you've gained, allowing you then to re-enter a level and regather all the money as many times as you would like. Some of the levels have branching paths, all eventually leading though to either a dead end or the same goal being the actual boss chamber and the hidden item for that particular level. This is just one of the paths you can take to get through here. You can also have headed straight right from when we first entered this cave-like area in order to actually find a tiki god that you would have to talk to and pay in order to get past him. And here we have our first boss of the game. This giant Mayan-like statue moves back and forth every so often, jumping up in the air with a big crash to the ground. Make sure that you jump in the air whenever he comes crashing down so you don't end up getting stopped. You also, of course, don't want him to land directly on you or run into you so you don't lose health that way. You can easily jump on his head in order to pogo on top of him in order to do damage. He flashes for a certain amount of time after you hit him, and this will be the same for every boss in the game. Once he stops flashing, you're allowed to hit him again. However, while flashing, he's invulnerable and you can't deliver a hit, so be very careful there. Once you've delivered 4 hits to the boss, he's defeated, you get the item, and you can go back to the level selection screen in order to choose the next level. The second level we're going to is Transylvania. While the level is basically the same as the NES version, it's a completely different path in order to get to the boss chamber itself, starting off by heading up and then heading over to the far left. The enemies are the same here, including the skeleton ducks as well as the mummies. On the far left, enter the mirror. Here you'll be over on top of this area and you can drop down to take out the mummy enemy below. If you head over to the right, it's actually where we just jumped into that previous mirror, so instead head down here and you'll have a choice between 2 mirrors. Choose the mirror on the right to continue on in the level. Watch out for that skeleton duck as you break the rocks over here to the left, jumping on top of his head when you can in order to get up to the top to grab that next treasure chest. Over here, break open the hole in the floor and then start heading down. You're on the final area of the stage. Watch out for a couple of ghost enemies. These ghosts fall down from the top of the screen, and when they get on the same level as you, that's when they start hovering towards you. So jump up into the air to get them to actually hover above you so you don't accidentally run into them. Then it's time to battle Magica Dispel. Magica will fire lightning bolts at you, as well as she'll turn into a giant vulture. In this form, she'll fly overhead, eventually crashing down to the ground, so be sure to avoid being underneath of her when she comes down. You can actually hit her in both the vulture form and in her normal duck form. Watch out for those lightning bolts and deliver 4 hits to her in order to get rid of her and move on to the 3rd level of the game. The 3rd level is the African Mines, and as soon as you start off the level, you'll move over to the right to find a keyhole. Unfortunately, the door is locked, and you actually have to go back to Transylvania to find the key. However, it's very easy. Over to the right, just drop down into the mirror below Webagale, and you'll be in the room with a chest, as well as the key. Go through the mirror on the far left once you've done that, and you'll be back to the level selection screen. You can go right back to the mines, and now you can go through that locked door. The mines are also, like the other levels, a little bit differently designed than they were in the NES counterpart. I always like the bat enemies during this stage because they fly overhead for a few seconds and then eventually their weight crashes them down and they get confused and dizzy on the ground, allowing you to jump on top of their heads. While the level design is a little bit different, I think it's a little bit more straightforward as far as actually trying to figure your way through here. Head over to the far left here and you'll find a hidden treasure on the left side of the room. This will easily net you a large chunk of money to add to your total money count. The most part of this level, though, is pretty easy, but there is a couple of tricky jumps, and that are these right here. You'll actually have to spring off enemies that pop out of the water, jumping and pogoing off the top of their head in order to get over to the next platform. Be sure to hit this rock on the right side in order to take the bat who's slightly above, just hanging from the ceiling, and then continue onwards. You'll do the same here, or just spring off the top of the bat in order to get rid of this one. Once you make it though to the far right, you'll have the choice of actually going down all the way to 2 floors, or just going down to 1 floor below. Choose to go down just 1, and then start heading over to the left, taking out another one of the bat enemies, and then break open and free this boulder. Once you deliver the second cane swipe, in order to destroy the second rock, be sure to run away, so the boulder doesn't end up hitting you. Ignore the next chain that you end up seeing that's going down, and continue over to the left to get to the boss chamber. Start off by jumping on the guy's head, and he'll start rotating around the room in either the left or right direction. Once he makes a full rotation, he reforms, allowing you to hit him. Unlike the NES version though, when he's flashing and moving around the room, he actually can't hurt you, so this makes this boss fight extremely easy. Once you deliver 4 hits to him though, rack up the money count, and move on to the Himalayas. The Himalaya level is one of my favorites. I've always been a fan of the Capcom snow levels, and this one is definitely a little treat. Be careful when pogoing, because you can actually get stuck in the snow itself, and take out the giant mountain goats as well as the rabbits that actually can hide under the snow and then pop out when needed. Drop down this large hole here, stopping over on the left to grab some money, then drop down below, hugging the right side so that you can actually land on this platform to pick up an extra life and another gem. Once you grab those, head over to the left, but instead of continuing past the chain, drop down. Once you drop down here, start moving over left, but watch out for the icicles as they fall. You can easily get and bait them by either moving a little bit towards them and then backing away so they fall down before they end up hitting you. Be sure to grab the gem in the lower left corner and then climb up here. After breaking open a couple more chests, you can go over here to talk to one of your nephews who tells you that Bubba is trapped in the ice. Climb up to the next platform and you'll actually find Bubba, who is trapped in the ice. Jump on top of the ice and actually free Bubba, and once you've freed him, he'll thank you for saving and then show you a hidden treasure. Contained within this treasure chest is this weird star item. However, grabbing the star item gives you a 4th piece of your health. You can now take 4 hits from enemies before you end up losing a life. Now drop back down and get back to the area with the icicles on the ceiling. Once again, bait and switch them so that you can actually get them to fall before you end up going underneath of them to avoid taking damage. Now above you is the rope that we took to get down here, and we'll be going back up there. However, if you want some extra treasure, head over to the right, jump on top of some extra treasure chests in order to get a bunch of extra money. If you head over to the very far right and break open the last chest, you'll find yourself another hidden 1-up. So that's 2 extra lives we've been able to capture in this level alone. Once you have those items, head back over to the left, watching out for the hockey player, and then climb up this rope. Now, instead of heading right, you want to actually now go left, watching out for the rabbit inside the snow, and then climb up the next rope. Climb up this rope in order to make it to the next screen, and when you do so, a rock will start rolling and coming towards you, so be sure to stop over on the left side open area so you can avoid getting crushed by the rock as it falls down. Once you climb up the rope all the way though, you'll be back out on the main outside area of the level. Get to the top and then jump on this moving platform in order to enter the boss chamber. Here you gotta battle the abominable snowman. Start off by jumping on his head, he'll then jump over to the left, then do another jump all the way over to the very far side. Once he does this jump though, he'll end up punching the wall, allowing all these rocks to fall down from the ceiling. He'll then turn around and then do 2 jumps over to the right and repeat the process. You'll easily have plenty of opportunity due to his slow movement to pogo on top of him 4 times to take him out and grab the next piece of treasure. We move on then to the 5th level of the game, the Moon level, easily the most favorite and nostalgic level in the Ducktales game. Now the Moon level is pretty much completely designed differently. You're not able to actually just go straight over to the far right side from the very beginning and find the wall that Gizmo Duck has to break down like the NES version. Instead, you actually have to climb all the way through the giant spaceship. Start off by heading over to the far left, breaking open any treasure chest you see, and then climb up this rope. Once up here, start heading over to the right, watching out for the squid-like space aliens that are moving up and down, as well as of course avoid landing on top directly of the spikes, either on the ceiling or on the floor. Climb up the next set of ropes and then bounce yourself once again over to the left side. Break open this chest on the far left side to get yourself another 1-up. So we've been able to locate at least 3 of the hidden 1-ups located in the game. Then head back over to the right and climb up the next rope you see. Once you make it up here, once again, jump off the rope and head over to the left, watching out for the robotic guy as he tries to punch his way towards you. You have to bounce on some spikes, but get on top of the ceiling here and go into a special hidden room on the far left side in order to find the Ufo Key. You need this item, of course, in order to find Gizmo Duck's controls. So, now time to actually find the UFO, but thankfully, not too far from where we're currently located. Head back over to the right and drop down the rope that we had climbed to get up here. Bounce on top of a robot and drop down the next hole on the left. Once you're down here, head over to the right and you'll be able to walk through the wall now. Without the key, that wall would actually be solid and you wouldn't be able to walk through it. Once you do so though, bounce off the spikes and grab Gizmo Duck's control. With that now in our possession, we have to head back up and go out the top of the spaceship itself. So, head back to the previous rope, head up, then head back over to the right and go up the next one. You have to watch out for the constantly respawning robots, but thankfully if you defeat enough of them, sometimes you'll get lucky enough for them to drop a piece of health so you can replenish some of your health meter. Once back up to the top floor, start heading over to the right, watching out for the big aliens as well as the small squid-like ones that are moving up and down. Thankfully there's a cake item that we can completely replenish our health if need be, as well as an extra diamond. Once you make it all the way to the far right though, you'll be on the outside of the area. Bounce over to the right side and find the second hidden treasure of the game. With that now in your possession, drop down the previous rope. Here is some pretty tricky jumping you'll have to do on the pogo in order to make it across these up and down moving rocks. Once you do so, drop down to the next one, and then wait for the platform to move back over to the left. Bounce off a couple of squids and land safely, and then you'll be able to summon Gizmo Duck who will blow open the wall. Once the wall explodes, you'll be able to drop down into the hole below. You'll fall a couple of screens, but when you land safely, you'll have to watch out for some Beagle Boys who have located themselves on the moon, as well as break open some rocks to find some hidden chests. Make your way over to the left, grabbing some extra items and hidden treasures along the way and watching out for Beagle Boys before you end up entering the boss chamber against the giant moon rat. This is one of the trickier bosses because he can jump pretty easily and jump directly into you. The rat jumps back and forth between the left and right platforms. Whenever he lands safely on the bottom middle area of the screen will be your best opportunity to deliver pogo hits to him. Once you're able to deliver the 4, though, you would get the hidden treasure of the moon cheese, rack up your money, and then we move on to the last part of the game. So just like the NES version, Flintheart Glomgold has stolen all the treasures. In order to get him back, you'll have to go to Dracula Duck Mansion. Another one of those English mistranslations, as they mean Dracula Duck's Mansion, which is back in Transylvania. Once back here in Transylvania, just take the exact same path we took the first time we came here in order to get back to the boss chamber where we fought Magic to Dispel. When we make it back this time, we'll end up fighting Dracula Duck, or Dracula Duck, as it actually is said Dracula Duck in the second time they mentioned the name. So we headed up here, taking out some more mummies, and then going to the mirror on the right side once you get the choice between the two. Once over here, watch out for the duck, bounce along all these rocks, and break open the floor right here. Once you've done so, you'll drop down into the final area of the game. Just like we did the first time, try to get the ghosts to come at you from above so you can go underneath of them without taking too much damage here. Though it can sometimes be a little bit tricky, and the hit detection on the ghost is a little bit wonky. Once you make it to the boss chamber though, it's time to battle Dracula Duck. In order to face off with Dracula Duck, what you'll have to do is wait for him to open up his cape and he'll throw a bat at you. Wait for the bat to get into a nice open area so you can actually spring off the bat itself and then spring on top of Dracula Duck himself. Just like all the other bosses, it only takes 4 hits, but getting the hit detection and pogoing correct on this boss is the trickiest amongst the entire game. Once you're able though to deliver the 4th and final hit, Glomgold makes his appearance. Just like in the NES version, you'll have to easily beat him up to the top using the rope and get to the treasure before he does in order to officially complete the game. Jump onto the rope immediately and climb up to the top of the screen, and then jump on the treasure chest, and then sit back and enjoy the ending to Ducktales for Game Boy. So there you have Ducktales for the Nintendo Game Boy. While of course not as memorable or as great as the NES counterpart, it's still a very good portable try, and the fact that the levels are a little bit remixed kind of makes it a second quest in a way to the NES version of the game. Ducktales for NES is one of the most fondly remembered NES titles of all time, easily one of my favorites, as I've always loved Ducktales as well as all the other Disney Capcom games. But with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.